So over the past week, I've had a lot of people coming to me, messaging me, and they all seem to have the same theme. They're all trying to figure out foundations for themselves and practices for themselves. And they come from all different walks. Some people have been doing this work for a really long time, and they're just in a place of recreation. They're in a place of growth. They're transitioning. There are some that are brand new, and they're trying to figure it out. And then all in between. But I find it really interesting that they're all focused on foundation and practice building. And when I mean foundation, personal foundation, not, a tradition or anything like that, not a religion, but their own personal foundations and their own for their own path. And I want to say it's because it's that time of year, maybe that's why everybody's starting to, really think about that, the New Year's, and everybody thinks about New Year's resolutions and all those things. But here's the thing, this is the first year that this has been really heavy. And it's interesting because it's right about the time we're about to start a in-depth shadow work series that deals just in those specifics of building foundation. And so I have to tend to wonder, is it just the time of year, or is it because of something we are already planning on doing and we've worked on and are about to start putting out? Or is it because of that New Year thing? I tend to think we're in the middle of a shift. And I think that way, especially because we really are in the middle of a shift. And I'll go into that later, but it's really interesting with Pluto moving into Aquarius on March 24th of this year. And Pluto, for me, is one of those planets that is very much... it's the well, it's the beginning and the end. It's that transformation point, that, space in between death and life. So a lot of interesting energies, a lot of interesting timing. But I wanted to talk specifically today about developing personal practice, especially when we are talking about daily practice. So, first of all, I want to start small. Don't, the reason why people fail so often in New Year's resolutions and when starting daily practice and stuff is they try to do too much all at once and keep it up. They go very big, very elaborate, and that's setting yourself up for failure, in my opinion, because you're going from nothingness to all in. And this is where we get burnt out. It is where people struggle, and it's why they end up giving up. So I wanted to talk about just a few things that you could do to start developing a daily practice. And the reason I'm saying daily is because it does need to be. I mean, if we are talking about developing ourselves and our magic and our spiritual, it really does need to be a daily thing. I also, this is going to mess with people, but I also say in the morning. And this is why. In order to set your mindset for the day, in order to, start your day off in this one space that you carry through, the morning is the time to do it. By the time the evening comes around, we may feel like we're more energetic in the evenings, especially night people and stuff. Here's the thing, though. Your day is already gone. You've already had all this other stressors and things that have gone on. You've had events already happen. And so you're not really setting your tone at that point. You're kind of catching up and, maybe resetting for the next day, but then again, you know, you're going to sleep. And if you're a dream person, then you're going to have those kinds of things. It's not the same. And I was not a morning person at all. I mean, I hated mornings. I really bucked against it. But I will say that switching and doing this in the morning has been really phenomenal for my own growth. And it really helps me to focus better. It really does set my tone and my mindset for the day. By starting off in a space of magical spiritual, it allows me to carry that throughout my whole entire day in through all the mundane pieces. And it allows me to see that spiritual and magical in those mundane pieces as well. So yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I know. But, you know, make the time in the morning, even if that requires you getting up earlier. I wake up 2 hours earlier than anybody else in my house. And that is just so I have that quiet space in the morning before anybody else gets up and enters into my energy space to do this work. So yeah, I know it sucks, but I'm telling you, it's really for the better if you do this. Choice is always yours though. I mean, you're going to do what you're going to do. The big thing is starting your daily. Okay, so starting a daily practice, start small. And I mean small. I'm going to give you a few examples of some things that you can do to start that. So your easiest and best one, most of you will get up and drink a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a glass of water, some juice, whatever it is your drink of choice in the morning. So grab that drink. Sit down in your sacred space, whether that's at your altar, whether it's a quiet space somewhere tucked away in your house, wherever this is. Would be much better if you can be by a window where you can see outside, or if you can actually be outside. But that's, you know, kind of your choice. But starting with just this allows you to sit there and talk out loud, whether it's to ancestors, whether it's to a deity that you're working with, the land spirits, whatever it is that's guiding you, whatever it is that you're working with on your journey or wanting to connect to. Grab your cup of whatever. Mine's tea. So I grab my cup of tea, I sit in my sacred space, and I'm really focused on conversation. So I just start talking, and talking out loud is important, I think. We have so much stuff in our heads, so to think that our deity and our ancestors are going to sift through all the crap in our head to know exactly what it is that we're trying to get out and stuff, I think that's a little arrogant. So I talk out loud. And I just talk about whatever's on my mind, anything that I'm struggling with, anything that I'm feeling, when I'm wanting connection, talking about, you know, that type of need or want. I'm talking about things that I'm worried about. So yeah, just talk out loud to them. That's a great way to build that bond and connection, and then give space and time after you're done talking just to sit in silence. Drink your tea, be silent, and listen and pay attention. Is there things that you're seeing? Are there signs outside? Are you hearing them? Are you feeling their energy? Just be very aware and be in your senses at this time. You'll be really amazed how much you will get in that small amount of space. If you are devoted to a deity, or if you are trying to connect to one, or anything along those lines, a prayer is just a spoken thing that we do to, you know, build connection. And it doesn't have to be anything solid, but as a morning kind of, you know, start your day off, perhaps do a specific prayer that really kind of sets your mindset. This is something you'll want to write yourself. and it doesn't have to be rhymey, and it doesn't have to be all flourish and stuff. You really want it concise and to the point. We get too much. We put too much into intention sometimes, and it makes them muddied and confuses them. And so try to be really specific. Try to be really clear in what you're saying. I did a video a week or so ago, recently, about a morning prayer that I'm doing, and for the Morrigan. And so you can kind of see it's very clipped and very short in the way of how it's written, but it's because it's very precise in how it's written. Another practice is divination. So this could be scrying in your tea or coffee cup, whatever your drink is, doing scrying, just sitting with it and watch the steam roll off of it and look into the water, these kinds of things. You can use different tools. So you could use tarot or oracle if that's a really great place. It's where I started. And you could do a couple of things with it. You can ask them to tell you a story. So if you're working with some type of spirit, you could ask them to tell you a story and draw some cards and, read it as a story. I'm personally, I did this really big journeys with Ogham and runes, and then with ancestors, they did animals. And so I'm using these pieces. And today I'm just, what energies do I need to focus on? Where should my thoughts be? And I will make, I'll go into this in just a little bit about what the actual message was that I received. But first I want to continue on with simple practices. So yeah, or you can just draw one card or one Ogham or one rune, and this is your focus energy. This is the energy you need to be focused on for the day. It just helps you center your thoughts and helps you center, where you should be looking today. And then keep it in the back of your mind all day. Maybe even carry it around with you if it's in a form that you can carry with you, put it in your pocket or whatever. So you have it with you, constantly reminding you of that energy. Journaling. So journaling is another great thing. I tend to do this more evening than I do in the morning, just kind of recapping my day type of thing. But, write in your journal. Journal down, your thoughts, what you're thinking, maybe what you dreamed, anything that's going to focus your mindset for the day, anything that's going to, you need to get anything out in order to move on from it that day. But journaling can be a really great thing, especially if you're a writer person. And then there's spellcrafting. Okay, so if you are, you don't connect to spirit, you don't connect to a deity, you don't have any of that, you're just a witch that spellcasts. So pick something simple. Have a simple ritual or a simple spell maybe. So this would be something you would have to plan a little bit ahead of time, most likely. But you can also put them together on the fly. So, but do a little spell. Say you need a little bit of energy, more energy. You've got some things coming that day. You need a little more energy for the day. And so you're going to do a spell that's going to help boost that. Or maybe you're going into a project that's a little unknown and you need a little confidence booster. Do a confidence booster. Don't make it big. Don't make it elaborate. Don't make it long. You want something very simple. And you want it to be fairly quick. So, think 10, 15 minutes or less. Another thing you can do is just sit in quiet reflection for about 30 minutes, where you're just in your mind and you're going through things, reflecting where you were, where you are, and where you want to go. You know, don't get dredged down in specific thoughts and things like that. No, just stay, you know, in a reflective space, but where you're not, this isn't shadow work time. We're not going into traumas. We're not tearing things apart. We're not deconstructing. We're not reconstructing here. We're just flowing through our thoughts and our emotions. So these are all things that you can do in the morning to start a morning practice. And you don't want to do all of them. Start with one. Then add another. But you want to give it time. Okay? So you want to give, you know, a couple of weeks doing something. And then you can either add to it, or you can decide, okay, well, this isn't working as well for me, so maybe I'm going to switch it from this to this. You know, whatever adjustments. As you go through, you're going to be adding things and taking things away and building upon what you're already doing. Keep that mindset of building upon. So, if you start with like 1 to 2 things, that's it. Something small, takes less than, 45 minutes to an hour. And it gives you that space to not be overwhelmed, to not feel like you have all this stuff, because especially people with anxiety and people that are procrastinators and stuff, you get too elaborate. And what's going to happen is that elaboration is going to be in your head, and it's going to start becoming a chore. Oh, I got to get up and I've got to do this and this and this in the morning. And you start stressing. And then if you don't get to bed early enough, it just creates a whole lot of anxiety that you don't need. You already have it. Stop adding to it. Start simple. Keep it simple. This isn't your whole entire practice. It's not your whole entire spirituality. This is you setting yourself up for success for the day. Okay? That's all this is. It is that moment of connection for you. It's that moment to bring in your own power, your own magic, your own practice, and your own connections, whatever you're bonded to or trying to bond to. So keep it simple. Don't get crazy. Don't go overboard. You will fail if you do this. So start simple and then add to it. And then when you find something that you thought was going to work, or it starts getting stale or whatever, then take that piece out, replace it with something else. It's all about experimenting. Keep experimenting, trying new things, figuring out what works and what doesn't. But you have to give it time to see if it really works or not. I see this often too, where somebody starts something, they don't get immediate results, and, after a day or two, they're like, nope, I'm on to something else. You're not giving it any time to really work. You're not really giving yourself any time to bring all of your own power forward. You need to give it time. So I always say about 2 weeks. Give something an honest shot for about 2 weeks. If it's not working after that, then remove it. It's not a big deal. You haven't lost that much time. It's only 2 weeks. And this isn't your entire practice. You can do all kinds of other things, and you will do all kinds of other things throughout the day, and, in different cycles and different days and all that, depending on what you follow. This is just about your morning. Setting yourself up for success within your magical practice and within your spiritual practice, which bleeds over into all of your mundane life. So now I'm going to quickly go through what I got this morning when I pulled, and it really fit well with what we're talking about. So, pine, these are OM, and they're from my own journey. So, the first one, keep it simple. Accept what is. Be where you are now. You know where you want to go. And too often we try to skip ahead, or we try to make ourselves into where we want to be. But we need to be where we are now in order to know and build and get to the place where we want to be. Be proactive and mindful of your emotions. Create the environment to support your endeavors. All really fits with what we're talking about. Okay, this one is you and where the gods dwell. Value the written by writing. So it's really talking about keeping accurate records, keeping an accurate record of your journey and writing it down. And I know for some people that's like tedious work or whatever. But if it is written down, especially handwritten down, I find this more often that you are going to be more apt to go back and reflect and read what's in a notebook versus what you may write on a computer or on your phone. You do you, however you want to do it. But I'm just saying, you want it in a space where you are actually going to go back and reread and reflect on what you wrote. That's going to help you grow. One, it's going to help you see growth, because a lot of times we don't see it. It happens slowly and gradually over time. And so it doesn't feel like this big miraculous moment of growth. It's something that happened over a period of time. So being able to go back, reflect on your writing, reflect on, oh, these were my thoughts then, or this is where I started. And oh my God, look at how much I've gone. You know, you just, it really does help in that reflection process. And then honor your beliefs, your customs, and your heritage. So it's really talking about ancestors, your personal customs and traditions that you're creating, your belief system, that's your connections, it's your own foundations, that type of thing. So in the runes, enjoy the time you have. That it's really talking about, you know, enjoy the time that you have right now, because there's no guaranteed of any more. So really be in your moment and enjoy that moment. Do the things that bring you joy. Do the things that are going to further your own goals, but focus on the journey, not the goal. Rune Master carefully crafts their ship. So the ship that we're talking about is how you move through the world, how you move through your life, how you move through, you know, your spirituality, your magical practice, all these things that we're crafting, all this, you know, practices, our daily practice is crafting for the rest of our day. And the things we do throughout the day build upon and craft more. So it's really talking about being the master and carefully and thoughtfully creating your ship. So how you're going to move through the world, how you're going to move through your spirituality. Trust your inner knowing. You know, stop second guessing yourself. You've got to start trusting your inner knowing. Flow with the storm. Don't fight against it. Keep your golden threads weaved tightly. Urus. Sorry, we're still here. Flow with the storm. Flow with the storm. Don't fight against it. We're all going to go through things. We're all going to have our own storms and, you know, situations and chaos that happens, even minor scale throughout the day and then larger scale. When we fight against it, we are actively taking a role to fight against that energy, which isn't entirely bad, but you're going to get crashed on a whole lot more. Flowing with the storm doesn't mean just letting it carry you through, but it means maneuvering through the storm in a very calculated, very thoughtful way to where you're holding yourself, your foundations, your power, and you're not letting the storm take those things. That's what it's talking about. You know, keep your golden threads weaved tightly. You know, you're keeping everything that you're crafted your ship for, that you're crafting your ship with, And you're keeping that very, very tight through this storm. And you're allowing it to help carry you through. Because we can't fight everything. There are things that are beyond our control that we're not going to be able to do anything about. So, flow with your storm. Okay. Root. Hammer, tears, feathers, torque. This is pieces of the ship. So your root are your roots. It's what grounds you. It's your heritage. It's your deity. It's your ancestors. It's your tradition, if you follow a tradition or a religion. Your roots, your ground, what keeps you steady. Your torque is the promise and possibilities. Your hammer is your strength, your determination, your will. Your tears are your sorrow, your pain, and your loss, because they are part of you and they are part of your journey. Feathers, your thought and memory, so past and present. All of these things, your root, your torque, your hammer, your tears, your feathers, it's how we move through the world. So it's how we take our ship and move. The last one, a sacrifice for ourselves to ourselves. So, yeah, when we're talking about sacrifice, too often we're thinking about, giving over to something else or giving to something else. When it comes to us, ourselves, it really is a sacrifice of ourselves to ourselves. We're sacrificing some sleep. We're sacrificing some time, all in order to build ourselves up, to grow ourselves, to get better in our practices, to get better connection, to, sit in our authentic self and bring forth our own power. So when you think sacrifice, a sacrifice of ourselves to ourselves. Know and accept the cost of what it takes to win. If you're trying to get somewhere, you need to know the sacrifice that's going to be necessary. You're going to need and accept the cost of what you want, because everything has a cost. Whether, we're not just talking about money here. We're talking about time. We're talking about energy. We're talking about, changing things within ourselves. Changes of perspective, duality, cost. Know and accept the cost of your goal. Make sacred. So make sacred spaces. Make sacred tools. Create sacredness within your life. And which battles with her eyes closed. This is kind of important because too often we rely so heavily on our eyes to give us all the information we need. What it's talking about is your eyes are deceptive. Your eyes aren't going to see everything. Your eyes aren't going to process everything that you do see. So when it talks about which battles with her eyes closed, it's talking about using all of your senses. Your intuition, touch, smell, hearing, feeling, our emotions. All of these things are senses that we need to get a clear picture. So, which battles with our eyes closed? And the last one, skunk. And I haven't done anything pretty yet for my my ancestors tool. So I just have these little cards with names on them at the moment. Skunk, a complex scent of blending creates truth and illusion. And that really kind of is skunk in a way when we're talking about, most people hate their smell, but there are some people that like it. But it really is a blending of a complex scent. And so you take that into your life when you're blending pieces together, whether it be, you're blending actual Ullman runes in order to create magical, whether you're building a candle spell or a jar spell. Any of these things are, you know, blending materials together to create something. Your spirituality, when you're writing prayers, poetry, any type of creation, it's that complex scent of blending creates truth and illusion, depending on what you need and what you're going for. Be still physically, but moving within. So be in that quiet space. Still yourself down. It's not about physical action. It's not about physical movement. All of the things that you need to be doing at that moment is within your head. So it's thought, it's emotion. It's inside of us. People don't see these things. It's not something you can prove to somebody else because it's something internal, not external. Ready yourself in deep meditation. We'll get into meditation later because we're not talking about, you know, oh, you know, do this, get into this kind of meditation. Meditation happens in all kinds of ways. Even when you're just sitting there in your thoughts or trying to let your mind just wander without directing it, that's a form of meditation. Anyway, be still. So be still and let your mind move. That's what this is talking about. And then the anticipation is maddening movement rippling beneath the surface. So again, your mind, all the things that are churning and moving that nobody else sees, but it's all happening within you. It helps you to return to your soul's beginning. And that part will get clearer the deeper you go. But I did find all of those components very fitting for the topic that I was going to be talking on this morning. So, yeah, you know, we are just talking about making a daily practice, whether that's only a spiritual practice, whether that is only a magical practice, or whether it is a combination of both. You know, it depends on who you are, how you see that, what you're working on, what your path is. Only you can determine those things. But start small. Don't put yourself in a position where you're setting yourself up for failure. You can start really small and build upon it every day. If you are not a morning person and you are going to take my advice and do this in the morning, so you're going to wake up a little bit earlier in order to give yourself time to do this, you know, start small. Start with just the cup of tea or coffee or whatever it is, and then add other things in, you know, or maybe you start with the coffee, tea, and then pull a card, pull a rune, pull an Om, something that helps you give a focus. So you sit there with your little tea and your card, and it goes through, and you're thinking about, you know, what that energy is, how it applies, you know, what your opinions are on it, what your feelings are on it. Go deep into the card. See what your intuition's telling you. That is one simple, quick practice. I mean, you're talking 30 minutes or less, hour or less. Start small. So, you know, maybe start at 30 minutes and then you extend to an hour. Like I said, I get up 2 hours before anybody else just to do my morning practice. Just to have that time of silence, to be able to connect, to be able to set myself for the day. That's really what I'm doing. I'm setting myself for the day. I'm hitting all my connections. I'm talking with Ancestor. I'm talking with the Morrigan. I'm talking with any other deity I may happen to be working with on a project. And I'm really setting myself up for the day so I can be successful throughout the day, because it doesn't just end there. I carry it through in my mind and in my emotions through the day. So yeah, you know, daily practice is really, really important because it consistently connects us to our practice. It consistently connects us to our spiritual, our path, whatever that may look like for you. It gives you that constant connection to it. And then you can do anything else. You know, if you can do other spell work, you can do other, you know, whatever ritual, you know, whatever else it is you do. It looks different for everybody. But this I think will really help you stay grounded in that. And it really does bring the magical more into the mundane. So you're living those together instead of as separate pieces. So yeah. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. If you have other suggestions for people, because these are just, you know, some of my simple suggestions. If you have other suggestions, other practices that people can try, put them in the comments. Let people know about them. Give other suggestions. I would love to hear them too. So yeah, think about it. Think about what you're going to do. Start small. You can always build up and add to it. And give it time. Give it proper time to decide on if it's something that's going to work or something that isn't. Because we're all different. We're all going to have things that work for us and things that don't work for us. So, yeah. Hope you have a great day. Hope this helped you in some way. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, yeah. Have a magical one.